Bills Mafia. Are you ready? From North Carolina to Buffalo, the Mafia is united. This is your home for the passion, the power, and the pride of the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Let's go, Bills.
Bills Mafia, welcome back to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover, episode 3, week 1. We're finally here, and we've got a absolutely packed show. I am your host, Owen, repping the Mafia, and you may see this other individual in your screens right now. Yes, that is Tim the Outsider. Now, Tim the Outsider is going to be joining us throughout the entire regular season and deep into the playoffs. And he's just going to give us a little different angle on the Buffalo Bills right here on Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Let's go. Tim, appreciate you joining the Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover podcast. I appreciate you joining us for the long, extended regular season and hopefully deep into the playoffs. And one of the things, as I mentioned in the open here, I wanted you to be a part of this because I want to see like what the national side of the NFL thinks about Bills Mafia. And let's just dive right into it. Week 1, Baltimore Ravens. I know we've got a guest coming up on the Ravens side, but what's been kind of like the national scene about the Bills team and certainly going into week 1?
As far as national scene, Bills are beloved nationally. That's the one.
Is that because of Bills Mafia, or is it just all in general? Or
I think it's Bills Mafia, and it's also everybody loves the underdog. No matter what, Bills until they win one are always going to be considered the underdog. And blue collar town people love that stuff, and they know the Mafia bleeds for Buffalo.
Yeah, and that's kind of the perspective I got from it as well. What is the national vibe or the national feeling of this huge Sunday night matchup between Baltimore and the Bills? What's kind of been the vibe that you've seen out there nationally outside of Ravens?
Honestly, this is the two teams that they're fighting against each other for the ones that are there to take on Kansas City at the end. That's really what it's come down to. Eventually, one of these teams has to beat Kansas City. At least we all can hope. But it's that's what the fight is, and it's literally starting week 1. We're not even having a build up. We're literally getting right into it, and let's see what happens.
All right, Mafia. It's time for The Other Sideline, where we bring in fans from the teams the Bills are facing this week. We get their perspective, their passion, and maybe even a little trash talk. So buckle up, because it's not just Bills Mafia in the house. It's game week, and the spotlight's on both sidelines. Let's go, Bills!
All right, Mafia, welcome back to our new section. This is called The Other Sideline. And you may see the person here that does not look like he is in any Bills gear at all.
No.
That is my friend Tad, who is from Virginia, who also has a Ravens podcast called Purple Perch. And he was graciously coming into the Mafia here to join us. So, Tad, we really do appreciate it. And welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Look, I love football, love talking football with good people and people that know what they're talking about. So that's always fun, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. So, I know preseason, if I remember correctly, Lamar didn't play any preseason games. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, because we're in that same boat with Josh Allen here. Didn't play any preseason games. So kind of headed into week 1 and really the season. What's been like the vibe of Lamar this year? Is he still the guy that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's face it, right? I think no matter who is doing the counting here, Lamar's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So that where that number falls in would obviously depend on how biased the person is that you're talking with, but it's
Yeah.
going to be somewhere in there. So I think the confidence obviously is very high in what he can bring to the table. Statistically, one of, if not the best quarterback in the NFL for a few years now, if you're only looking at stats.
Yeah.
But I think it's also unrealistic. Like, we've got to look at it and say, is there something to prove? Yeah. There's always something to prove, with the great ones, and Josh Allen's in the same boat.
Yeah. 100%.
It's postseason, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not judging these guys by regular season wins at this stage in the game. This is about Super Bowls. This is about rings. And so, I think that's ultimately the only guy maybe that doesn't have that to prove right now is Mahomes.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
He's done it. So, I mean, at least but I think Lamar's going to be the guy for the next 10 years or so at this point, barring something totally catastrophic. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I certainly, I mean, this is a huge game. I mean, the NFL knew what they were doing by putting this game on Sunday night, rematch from the divisional games. It's week 1. It's not going to define the whole season. These are two good teams that are probably going to see each other in playoffs. So yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Do you guys think Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are literally on the same levels? As in, they got to do the same thing and prove the same thing. They've got their MVPs. They can put up their stats. They get their acclaim, but they have not won the big prize. Pretty much, are we on the same level? As in, like, this is the future. We're not going anywhere.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll let you take that one if you want.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take it. I'm happy to take it if you prefer.
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly there's an argument to say regarding both Lamar and Josh. I do believe they are two completely different players. It's hard not trying to be biased here, but I mean, I think looking at the Ravens team this year, and we'll get into some of the offseason moves here, but looking at the Ravens team with King Henry in the backfields, I know James Cook really had a breakout year this year, but really since Josh has been involved here with the Bills, he's really had to have carried our team. And it may be the same for Lamar, prior to Henry, but certainly I feel like that, and definitely this year with our defensive woes, I do feel like they are definitely two different quarterbacks. I think Josh is a better thrower than Lamar. I wouldn't say they're on the same playing field.
Yeah, I'll tell you, from my perspective, Tim, just to answer the same question here, I think, you're talking about two good quarterbacks. I mean, there's no getting around that. And I think, it's kind of funny how it works. I was thinking about this earlier today, just kind of, in preparation of this conversation, not knowing that this question was going to be asked, but just in general prep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because they don't have long memories. And
No.
it was not that long ago that people thought Derrick Henry was too old. Derrick Henry was kind of washed up. He was kind of at the end of the road, that type of deal. And then he comes to the Ravens, obviously has a great year last year. And now everybody looks at it like, well, of course Lamar has so many weapons. He's got Derrick Henry in the back. Well, it wasn't that long ago that nobody thought Derrick Henry was so much of a weapon because he was on the back end of his career.
right.
Now,
That's right.
all of a sudden, he's the reason that, Lamar shouldn't win an MVP or has this stacked team or something like that. When I think he certainly brings value, but Lamar was winning MVPs with, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and, a lot of guys out of that backfield and receivers that aren't starters on any other team. And so, I think there's the postseason narrative is stronger around Lamar for sure, because I think the regular season heights have been so high that then, everyone's waiting for that enormous kind of breakout in the postseason that we just haven't seen.
Yeah.
But I think, if you step back from that narrative, I think ultimately both quarterbacks need to accomplish the same thing. I can't imagine, and obviously you guys would know better, but I can't imagine that there's too much solace this year if the Bills were to not make it, but Josh were to win another MVP. See, it's
Yeah.
one thing, the first MVP, you kind of go, okay, well, that's great. Our guy got it, right? But
Yeah.
after that second one, you're kind of like, I don't really care about it anymore. Now I want to
Exactly,
see the actual, the postseason wins is really all that matters.
Well, they are like a mirror image of themselves. One, they came in the same draft class. I know Josh Allen had Diggs for a while. Lamar's had Mark Andrews as far as his main guys, but they
Yeah.
haven't had a whole lot around them as
No.
far as they've had to carry both franchises throughout, and that's why both fan bases love them like they do, because they know what you're doing for the franchise and really carrying them to wins.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Baltimore went out there this year. Baltimore went out there and added Hopkins, right? They had Hopkins there, Alexander, Ronnie Stanley, and then big time money for Kyle Hamilton. Really, really interesting point of view there on that side of things. Like what was the mindset? Because look, I mean, and Tim would probably agree with me here. Like Brandon Beane isn't paying a safety the highest contract. He barely pays running backs, right? So, or wide receivers for that matter. But man, that's crazy. So to Tim's point, like you got D Hopkins, you got these players in here to shore it up to help out, right? So, I mean, especially that with Kyle.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing too that's kind of an interesting stat, and I really, quite frankly, didn't know this. I found it today, and I thought it would be worth bringing up, is that Lamar Jackson's gone 52 straight starts without losing by more than 7 points, including the playoffs. That's the longest streak since at least 1950. So when you look at just sheer being in the game all the time, in a position to win all the time, Lamar brings that to the table. So I think from that perspective, the Ravens feel very confident, very secure in any game, because if there's a blowout that happens, the Ravens are the ones that do the blowing out. If they're, whether they're losing or winning, it's going to be a close game. If if it's not a blowout, because they don't lose by more than 7. And, when you look at the Kyle Hamilton move, I think that's kind of an interesting one, because the reality is that Kyle Hamilton's become really the central figure of the defense in Baltimore. And when you go back, historically speaking, with the Ravens, it was always really the linebacker position. That was really obviously Ray Lewis, and even now Roquan Smith, a few years ago. Now that's changed a little bit. And the defense, it used to start from the linebacker position and kind of radiated out. Now it really runs through the safety. If you look at the versatility and the impact last year that Kyle Hamilton had on the defense, it was crazy, because for the first half to 2/3 of the season last year, Baltimore's defense was one of the absolute worst defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
People forget this because they got it turned around after around week like 10 or 11, and they started playing a lot better going into the playoffs. And then everyone's kind of like, oh, that Baltimore defense is so good. They sucked. They were terrible early in the year. And part of that was because you have a brand new defensive coordinator, a whole new defensive coaching staff, and a lot of kind of movement and changing on the defense. Kyle Hamilton is really the guy that settled that down. And whether you want to say he's the top safety in the NFL, I think a lot of people would say right now that he is, but if he isn't, he's top 2 or 3, worst possible case scenario. And the fact that, the defense really runs through him, I think it's why they made the move. And if you look at what else kind of radiates around that, they drafted Malachi Starks to play safety. The original plan would be Ardarius Washington playing safety with Malachi Starks having some time. Ardarius gets an injury, and next thing you know, Malachi's really going to be put in there to have to play. So Kyle Hamilton really does kind of settle the whole defense. And I'm pretty confident, whether he gets home or not, at some point, even in week 1, you will see a safety blitz coming from Kyle Hamilton, targeted for Josh Allen, because he's super versatile from that perspective. So he's got the pass coverage skills, but they move him all over the place. He's kind of the ultimate chess piece for them.
Yeah, the one thing I would definitely say is I know he got paid as a safety, but as a Ravens fan, he's an X factor, because he's literally playing multiple positions all game, and they can put him anywhere. And you guys already know, you guys appreciate safeties anyway. When you had Ed Reed, you guys already know.
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody in Baltimore was upset about paying Kyle
Yeah.
Hamilton. Nobody thought he got paid too much. Like there are plenty of times you see signings and you're going, "Oh my God, that guy, you gave him that much money." Nobody felt that way about Kyle Hamilton,
Yeah.
particularly because he's a young guy. We haven't even seen his prime yet, and it makes sense to lock him up because this is kind of, and I don't want to go off too much on a tangent here, but this is kind of the opposite of a Jerry Jones move. Right. This is not kick the can down the road until I got to pay Kyle Hamilton so much that now I can't afford to pay him or I can't have anyone else on the field.
Yeah.
This is, I've got the player, pay the man, he's earned it, keep him locked up and keep him in house. And it's a better way of doing business. I think, we've seen that just historically. The good teams lock up their best players when they get the opportunity, and it won't be the end. I think we're going to see an extension for Tyler Linderbaum coming, the center. We'll obviously see a Lamar Jackson extension coming soon as well. So there's going to be some other things, some renegotiations and extensions coming for players. There's a lot to manage, but I think the Kyle Hamilton move makes sense for them. He's an even bigger role for that defense than most safeties are on any other team.
And going off what you're saying, and this is really a question for both of you, is this the time where it's like, hey, we got to put our chips in the middle of the table and go for it? Because there's no messing around with either one of your teams.
I can tell you the answer is 1,000,000% yes. And I'll tell you something, this was not, I hadn't planned on bringing this up, but it is one of the reasons why I felt, now I'm saying this prior to knowing contract details, I thought that the Bills should have been all in on Micah Parsons. Because
I did too.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I felt like, you rarely have an opportunity to have a difference maker who can be available like that, a 26-year-old guy. And if the idea is, if you're the Bills, and I don't know that this is the case, I'm not a Bills expert, right? But if the idea is, hey, we're not going to have that huge number one name guy at wide receiver, we're not going to have, it's like, okay, if you're paying Josh, get the opposite side guy taken care of as well. That centerpiece who's a difference maker, because if you look, and if it's the Chiefs, they obviously have Chris Jones, right? And the Ravens don't have a tremendous number one pass rush guy, but they did draft Mike Green, who I think is going to be an impact player for them this season. But in reality, I just felt like for the Bills, that was an all-in move. Now, I'm not saying they should have paid what the Packers paid, contract-wise, but
that's where I'm at with it. I watch Micah Parsons plenty. I think Mark Parsons is good. I do not think he's worth that money.
Right. Because
I think he's a great pass rusher, but he does not play to run. Honestly, if he is hurt already, which he might not even play week one, I think the Bills, I think Bills knew what the money was. I think from what I saw rumors wise, they definitely looked into it.
Yeah, 100%.
They were definitely one of the teams like talking about it. But if the agent was coming with that money, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes per year.
Yeah. I mean, the saying here in Bills Mafia is, we trust being the baller, right? So, I mean, 2 first-round draft picks, I think, is what he got here. There's no way. I would be upset with that if the Bills went out there and got that, But it's an interesting position. We did the experiment with Von Miller. Now you got Bosa on the other side, so hopefully he's healthy in there. The Bills, their slogan is draft, develop, and re-sign. And they've shown that this offseason. So, but yeah, I mean, and to your question, Tim, look, and it's probably the same with the Ravens here. People say that the Super Bowl window is closed on the Bills. If 17 is behind center, if Lamar's behind Baltimore center in any season, the doors are always wide open. Always wide open. So, I mean, it as long as Allen stays healthy, we're always gonna have a shot, and I think that's kind of the same for Baltimore as well.
The one thing that I'll add in there, and something I was thinking about earlier today, and it feels relevant, is that the Bills are in a situation where I agree with you. Like when your quarterback's taken care of, that's the biggest thing to get off your plate, right? So the Bills have that. The reason, though, that I do feel like right now the window will not get more open than what it is for the Bills and will probably progressively close is because in right this moment, they happen to play in one of the weakest divisions in the
Yes.
NFL. And there's just not, you don't get that for very long, right? And
You're
so
right.
you have that little window of time. And let's face it, right? Every team that didn't win during the Patriots run said the exact same thing about the Patriots, which is,
And we
of
don't
course you're
know-
there, right? You get first round
Yeah.
bye every year. You're winning the division because you play in a terrible division. And that's
we
why.
don't know what the AFC is going to look like. And obviously, next week we'll preview the Jets and, we'll see, Sunday how they look. So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I mean, I just certainly feel Josh is just an incredible talent.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when he's on the field, we're in every game. And so, yeah, but you are right. It does play a part into that. Now, when you look at this week's game here, the season opener,
Yeah.
Tad, like what are your biggest, or what do you see the Ravens' biggest strengths are heading into this matchup against the Bills?
Well, I think there's a couple things. The easiest one to say would just be, well, they have a really versatile offense, right? You can run, you can throw, but honestly, that's not where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with the defensive secondary. I don't want to
Okay.
belabor the point because we already talked about it, but when you look at a specific strength of the team we just talked about Kyle Hamilton at length, right? So that alone, but it's easy to forget about Marlon Humphrey, who's been an all-pro player and a Pro Bowler. Nate Wiggins, who, was excellent last year in his first year. You go down again, Malachi Starks in the first round, and you talk about all of those guys before you even mention somebody like Jair Alexander, I don't expect him to play week 1, but just the depth, Chidobe Awuzie, who they signed in the offseason as well, who used to be on the Bengals. So I just think that defensive secondary is the strength of the team. They have a lot of other strengths on the offensive side, obviously, but they have the ability to win a shootout. But if I were just on paper to say, what's the real singular kind of more nitty gritty than just saying they have a balanced offense, I would say the defensive secondary is where I'd say the strength.
What would you say that for Bills fans listening and watching the podcast, like where would you say the weakness is the Bills can, exploit?
Yeah, I'll tell you where I think where a lot of it will hinge is linebacker integrity for the Ravens. And the reason is because, I mean, obviously we know, right? Josh can throw the ball, he can run the ball. And particularly in week 1, when you have a lot of new players, young guys out there, communication on coverage roles and that type of thing is going to be really important. And linebacker integrity is going to be vital because the moment that a guy cheats too far to the outside, we know Josh is going to run it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so those guys being disciplined, and we know what Roquan Smith can do. Last year, Trenton Simpson had some struggles. He had played well in kind of limited duty behind Patrick Queen the year prior, but last year was his first as a starter, and he just had some struggles. And so, supposedly had a great training camp, played well in the preseason, all of those things. I think that's going to be a really important part of it because it's too easy to get burnt, little short passes over the middle and runs up the gut. They just take the heart out of a defense. And so I think the coverage will be there, but I do think linebacker integrity is going to be very important for the Ravens. If they don't have it, then the Bills are going to be able to take advantage for sure.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And like from the Bills side of things too, the back end of our defense has been a question mark all preseason here. Cole Bishop is going to probably start there alongside Rapp. And then obviously we don't know the cornerback situation right now, but yeah, I mean, I can see certainly for the Ravens side, if they exploit the back end there, it really could be a long day for the Bills. Henry notoriously runs all over Sean McDermott, although he only had 82 yards, I think, during the playoff game or maybe before the first half. So they did a good job there, but it would make sense. And to your point, Tad, the Bills are focusing in on James Cook and getting that run game down there. And with Ty Johnson on third down, I can definitely, see that.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really, I mean, let's face it, right? The interior of both of these teams is vitally important. And there's going to be some really rough battles in the trenches. There's no getting around that.
What's the vibe been like in Baltimore for this game? For the game week 1 coming up. What's been kind of the vibe? Is this I know a few of the chatter amongst the Mafia's number 1 seed is up to play here. I know it's week 1, so
Right.
but I mean it is a pivotal game. I mean, you'd
Yeah.
imagine these guys would clash again, but what's been kind of the vibe going into the the preseason into the season about this game coming up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's excitement obviously getting the season started. I do think this is, for the Ravens, again, kind of what we talked about a little earlier, not the be all end all. It's week 1 of the regular season, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a litmus test, a little bit of a revenge.
I agree with that.
And, last year they played the Chiefs week 1 after having lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? So this seems to be a theme the NFL likes is
Yes. Yeah.
Ravens revenge games. And, that's the week 1 game last year where Isaiah likely caught the touchdown in the back of the
Yep.
end zone, and they said his toe was in the
Yeah.
white by, an 1/8 of an inch or whatever, and they waved it off, and they end up losing that game. So, I think the vibe is more excitement around the season than it is too much pressure or weight on this particular game. I think it's an important game, obviously, like you said. I mean, it's going to have ramifications
Sure.
later in the season. You have to assume so. But I also think, the flip side of it is also true. The Ravens destroyed the Bills in the regular season last year,
Yes, they did.
right? And so it's kind of like, but that didn't mean that the Bills weren't able to win in the playoffs last year, So
Yeah,
so I
right.
do think it's an important game with ramifications, but at the same time, I think you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Fans from both teams will be way more excited about their team winning, and the ones, the fans of the team that lose are just going to kind of say, that's week 1, who cares, it doesn't matter, put it in the rear view and move on, which is a healthier way to look at it. It's not going to be that exciting if for whoever wins, but both teams want to win. I think for the Bills, they want to prove that it wasn't just some bad luck turnovers last year, like they're the real deal, and they can beat the Ravens. And I think the Ravens want to show that, like, no, it was a weird game for us, no doubt. But we're much closer to the regular season matchup from last year than than the playoff matchup. Who's going to win that and who's going to be proven right? I don't know. That'll make it interesting, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it is right now.
Is this
Are-
a
are you-
vibe? Yeah, go
no,
ahead, Tim.
Are you guys worried this is going to be ugly game to start with, considering pretty much both sides of the ball? You guys have not been playing preseason. As far as the starters have not been even touching the ball, haven't been on the field.
Yeah,
And
it's a
is
great
it-
question.
is it really going to be just like hoping, hey, I hope my guy is at least safe with the ball? So there's going to be a couple turnovers probably in the first half that probably wouldn't have happened usually.
Yeah, I mean, last year, it's funny. I was thinking about this. Last year, we played Arizona at home, and I think they got out maybe 10, 12 points up on us. Josh didn't play he was supposed to play in Tampa in preseason. It rained, I think, so he didn't play. I don't even think he played that whole preseason. And they came out very slow, and they eventually, it kicked in. But to your point, Tim and Tad, like that, this is not Arizona. This is Baltimore. This is Lamar. This is Henry. The Bills have to come out fast. And they're 10-0 at home last year, so they got that streak coming in. I am concerned with that, Tim, because last year the Bills came out slow against Arizona. So
Yeah, I think from the Ravens' perspective, ball control can help with that, right? If you can get that running
True.
game established. One thing that I think people have a tendency to miss about the Ravens is that there's so much focus on Derrick Henry. And people kind of lose sight about, and I'll tell you one name in particular, but people lose sight of Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell.
Yep.
And Keaton Mitchell did not have the opportunity to play much last year. He was coming off of an injury, but he's incredibly explosive. He's a guy who, a little swing pass to him on the outside could go to the house at any time.
yeah,
And both him and Justice Hill are complete change of pace backs to Derrick Henry. And so I think that, that's a feature of the Ravens offense that a lot of people don't always think of, in that, you're pounding Derrick Henry, and then all of a sudden that little swing pass or a little pitch to the outside or the little RPO, and and then it's a Justice Hill or a Keaton Mitchell, and it's just that change of pace that really makes it hard for the defense. And because you're already tired, you're already trying to deal with Derrick Henry. That's enough, right? And then when a guy comes in who's the opposite, right? And Keaton Mitchell in particular, small guy, super fast, very shifty and elusive. I think that aspect of it can play a big role. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm easing into the passing offense. I'm going to try to establish that run first, utilize that to open up the pass, and kind of let that unfold on its own versus feeling like you need to force anything early, because you're absolutely right. A turnover could totally be what changes this game. So don't be the one that makes that turnover.
Exactly. And I think the Bills on that front, the Bills have to come out fast. I really do. I think they need to get up on Baltimore early, especially at home. It's going to be the last year of the stadium. So, I mean, it's going to be wild there. I feel like if Josh and Cook and everyone can get on a fast pace and get on there, I think that would be certainly something that would set the tone for what we need to do. Are we a rivalry now? Or because, I mean, is this, are we like, because I know it's Mafia in Kansas City, but is this turning into be like a little Baltimore? Is it feel like that for you guys in Baltimore?
It's interesting. I can only speak for myself and folks that I speak with and hear from. And I think they're rivals from the perspective of we're all going to see each other at the end of the year, right? We know, kind of where it is. It's not a rivalry, at least at this stage, like the Ravens and Steelers or the Cowboys and Commanders. It's not that type of a thing. It's more kind of like, I don't know, I'm just using two random teams, like the Rams and the Eagles, for instance, right? Where it's like, okay, the postseason is really what matters because they're going to see each other there. If they play in the regular season, there are going to be some good matchups. But I don't think that, I think it's a rivalry only from, at least so far, from the perspective of both teams, each team knows the other one's very good. And so it's a little bit of a litmus test against where you are. In my opinion, both teams ultimately still at this point, until anything has changed, we're looking at the Chiefs. I mean, I'd love to say we're not, but that's who the ultimate thing is that we're looking at. And if you have to look up to anybody, that's who it is right now. So I would say there's rivalry from the perspective of they're both very good teams.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that's kind of where it is. But again, there's a lot of potential though. If this thing keeps going for another 3 to 5 years, then I mean, all bets are off. For sure.
That's what actually I was thinking about is it starting to get to the point where, how they had the rivalries back when we were growing up, as in like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning playing each other, where it's like it's gonna be Lamar, it's gonna be Josh, it's gonna be Mahomes, it's gonna be Burrow. Pretty much all about same age and all just following each other throughout their careers. And the only reason their teams are in it is because of those guys.
Yeah, 100%.
And that
100%, yeah.
And that's just going to be like, we're almost going to be factoring the fact, hey, what was your record against him? What was your record against him?
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it could be worse, right? We could be fans of other teams that don't have a Lamar or a Josh Allen. So, I mean, that's how I look at it.
No, you're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could always be. I mean, these are champagne problems, right? Like the best case scenario is this, because it's funny how easy it is to take things. I don't even want to say for granted, right? But last year, right? If you're looking at Lamar, only quarterback in NFL history ever to have over 4,000 passing yards, 40 or more touchdowns, and over 800 rushing yards. But nobody cares about that, right? Even if he had won the MVP, that doesn't matter because and it doesn't matter to him either, thankfully. But it's just that's no longer what you're being judged by. What you're being judged by is a singular thing. You either win or you did not. And so, coming into every season, you're really just looking at, okay, where are my 10 regular season wins, getting into the playoffs, and then what are we going to do when we get there?
Yep.
And I think that's the beautiful thing. That's the gift of having a great quarterback on your team and having that coverage. And then that's also the pressure, right? The weight of expectations that come with that, because I'll use the Bills maybe a little bit as an example. For a long time, the Bills, and I'm going pre Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
Just not that relevant for a
No,
period of time there because again, they're
17
in with the
years.
Patriots.
You don't need to
They
tell
had-
it. 17 years. Yeah.
So, when you look at that and you go, okay, well, now when that's the case, you're just looking for wins wherever you can find them, right? And I don't mean wins as far as individual gains, even though that's part of it too, but it's just kind of like, hey, this guy played really well. This guy's looking good. Hey, this guy maybe is a guy for the future. But once you feel like, hey, we have a lot of the pieces that we need, we're moving from also ran status to contender status.
Exactly.
Well, that now it's a whole different ball game, right?
Yep.
And now it's like those things that maybe I was happy with before, I'm no longer happy with them
Exactly.
anymore. Now I want to take the next step, right? I'm not here just to be here.
That's
So
it.
I think that's a big part of it. I think the Bills are kind of going through that right now and have
Yep.
been over the past few years.
For sure.
And that's why I said before, I just think right now, this is the time they absolutely do need to capitalize. Not to say that, the window is going to be closed on them, just same as the Ravens for the next 10 years. They should be competitive. But man, knowing that you have X number of should win division games on the schedule on a yearly basis, it makes that road and your overall health of your team so much better when you get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
When that road to get there, the less painful and trying it is on the physical and mental health of your team, the better, that you have the opportunity to be when you get there. So
Yeah.
it's fun though, man. It's absolutely fun because there's a lot of teams right now that would absolutely love to be in the shoes of, one of those top 5 teams in the NFL.
For sure.
But that's the one thing, guys, is like it's that all your quarterbacks are fantastic, but your guys are in like not Mahomes club.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
not
no matter what, until one of them gets a Super Bowl. Even though I personally think talent wise, Lamar, Josh Allen are absolutely better than Mahomes.
Yeah.
But it's Mahomes just had a great teams around him.
Yeah.
He's always going to get compared, no matter what the stats are. It's always going to be, but they're not Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until they get that off their back.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't disagree because I think, from my perspective as a football fan, Tom Brady's the winningest quarterback. In my opinion, watching football, Peyton Manning was the best quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of that era. I think Peyton
Agreed.
Manning was the best quarterback, but Brady was the guy who won, right? And so, there's a reason that, Peyton held at the time that he retired all of the records, but he's not the guy who's talked about as the greatest, right? The greatest is Brady because he's the one that won. And you can look at that for any number of different reasons and how good the team was and, all of those types of things. And that's not taking anything away from Tom Brady at all, obviously. But, at the end of the day, it really is. It's you can have excuses or results. And, at the end of the day, we're all looking for results. None of us want excuses. And because the excuse when you're not a good team is, well, we don't have our quarterback yet.
Exactly.
Once you have your quarterback, the rest of it doesn't matter. You have no excuses anymore. That's just the way the NFL works. Once you have that one player, there's no more excuses. You have to find ways to win.
That's it.
Yeah, just like you said, Ted, before, it was like, now that he's won an MVP twice, and Josh Allen's got one, now it's like, I can care less about the MVP.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Are we winning? Are we winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's the ultimate goal for both of us here. Well,
Yeah,
before we go
100%.
here, Tad, I want to first of all thank you and make sure
pleasure.
you check out Purple Perch, right?
That's right.
Purple Perch, and we'll link the YouTube on our social medias for you guys to check out. So make sure you do that. So it is our last year in the stadium, Orchard Park, ever. Like,
Yeah.
we're tearing it down. You've probably seen the new stadium pictures. I was
That's
lucky
right.
enough to live through the 90s and was there during Kelly and all that era
Oh,
there. But
nice.
I want to kind of get an idea of what memory you had, because it would have been with what we call Rich Stadium or Highmark or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
it could be as simple as the Ravens coming in and blowing out the Bills or anything. So what's a last memory of Ravens Bills in that stadium?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think, and first of all, very fortunate for you that you were there during the heyday of that time. And I've been a Ravens fan for a long time. I actually went to the Super Bowl in 2012, was at the game. And so, for me, during this time, I think I always care the most about the games that mean the most.
Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately, and again, your audience will probably love hearing this, but the pain of last year's loss
Sure.
is probably the one that stings the most. If you go back to, gosh, what was the previous? Was it 2020? I'm thinking of the
Yeah,
previous
the,
loss when Lamar
COVID
had the
year.
concussion.
Yeah, Taron Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah.
return that pick. Yep.
Yeah, so when Lamar had the concussion, and that was a tough game, no doubt about that, but nowhere near as difficult as last year's game. Last year's playoff loss was one that was one of the worst losses that the Ravens have had. There've been a couple that have been really, and I'm talking about over the whole span of the Ravens. There've been a couple losses that have been really, really challenging. Think of the New England game when Lee Evans had the drop slash, got knocked out of his hands, and then Billy Cundiff shanked the field goal. Like there have been some painful losses. Last season I think is up there as one of the worst. And I mean, let's face it, right? The fans were on point in Buffalo. They represented the team super well. The elements were there in what you would want to see. Playoff football in Buffalo, snow on the ground, freezing cold. Like that's what you want, right? Like I'm not a dome guy. I'm not a big fan of those types of things. I want football to be played in football weather for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that had everything you wanted, last year. The only thing it didn't have what I wanted, which was the Ravens pulling out the victory on the road. But I think that's the one that would stick with me, significantly.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you're our first guest because it's week 1. So as we get down the line, I'm assuming that some of these guests are going to probably pick times where they blew us out in the 17-year drought or something like that. So,
right.
I know Bill Mafia is appreciative of your honesty on that point. But again, I want to thank you so much, man, for coming on to our podcast here. Again, it's Purple Perch, and I will link YouTube links so you can check him out. Tad, you can check Tad out on YouTube. And yeah, man, good luck. And I'm sure we'll probably connect sometime in late January or something like that, and do this all over again.
Absolutely.
And Tad, I got to ask before you leave, man, what's the prediction for the game?
Whew.
Yeah,
that's a great last question. Look, I mean, I think obviously I'm riding with the Ravens on this. As a general rule in week 1, I don't pick high scores, but I do think that a high score might be needed here. So I could see like 31-24 Ravens. Because I agree with you, Owen. I think the Bills are going to try to jump out early and jump up to try to make the Ravens a little more one-dimensional and hope to take the run game out of it. So I think some points are going to need to be scored. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'll come in at it. And look, I'm going to be really curious to see it. I'm excited. It's crazy that it's football season already.
I know,
like it just ended and it's already time. But yeah, I'm looking back, and I'll tell you, last thing I'll say. The Bills got somebody, brought him back, somebody that I hated seeing leave from the Ravens, which is Tre'Davious White.
Yes.
I was really hoping that the Ravens would keep Tre'Davious White. Didn't even have a ton of opportunity to play, last year for us, but I liked his play when he was in there. Hated seeing him leave, but I like the fact that you got him back. I just think he's a good person, good player, and he'll make an impact for sure.
Absolutely. He's definitely going to be
Absolutely.
an important piece for us as well. So I won't tell you who I'm going to pick because viewers of the Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover have to wait to the later segment to figure out who I pick. But I think
nice.
where I'm going there. But I wrote it down. Again, Dad, thank you so much for coming on our show for week 1. And good luck. And again, I'm sure we'll see you later on down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Good
luck.
Thank
you.
Yeah, have a great one, Tad.
Bills Mafia, make some noise. It's time for Mafia Mail.
All right, Bills Mafia. As you know, this is my favorite part of the podcast. One of my favorite parts of the podcast is Mafia Mail. And this is Tim, the Outsider's first opportunity jumping into Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover for the Mafia Mail. And let's get right to it. We'll pull it up here. All right, this comes from Marcus L in Nashville, Tennessee. Marcus, thank you, Marcus, for tuning in and watching from Nashville, Tennessee. By far one of the best destinations to watch a football game. Doesn't matter who the team is. I was lucky enough to be there for one of the Bills games. But here's his question. He says, hey, guys, checking in from Nashville, Tennessee. With all the rosters shuffling on defense, do you think your offense is going to have to carry even more of the load this season? Or do you still believe Sean McDermott's defense can hold up? Amazing question, especially going into week one. Look, and we'll get into this during the keys of the games, but all preseason, it's been nothing but what is happening with Trey White, what is happening with the back end. I do think, and I'll be interested to see what you have to say here, Tim, from a national perspective, but I do think, like, Josh is always going to hold the group together. I mean, without Josh, we're probably not even talking about getting into the playoffs. So I'm nervous about the back end. I don't know what Trey's situation is like, although he is on the depth chart as a cornerback, so that's a great sign. But then you look at the safety ends, you got Cole Bishop and you got Tyler Rapp in the backfield in the safety position, and Cole Bishop has not had a good preseason. So it's going to be really interesting. Great question, Marcus. But I think McDermott's defense has always been good in plug-and-play situations with guys that you don't know about, Christian Benford, those type of things. So I think they'll hold their own. But, if Josh has a bad game, an uncharacteristic bad game against a team, then, yeah, I can see the Bills not pulling that out.
Totally agree. As far as what I know, the fact is, it was a defensive question, and you kept bringing on Josh Allen. That tells me all. I need to know as far as your defense.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, the safety, the back end of the Bills' defense is going to be very questionable, and you're going against, Henry and Lamar Jackson week one. I mean, that's really going to set the tone, I think, of what the season may look like.
Well, here's the thing: from coming from last year, when you guys got blown out by the Ravens in the regular season, you had a lot of injuries. At least this is week one. Yeah. You're gonna have Milano.
That's true.
You're gonna have front four. And honestly, the X factor that might be something huge that you guys aren't even considering is, let's see what Joey Bosa does.
Yeah,
Joey Bosa is a talent, and no one's talking about him.
That's great.
And with Joey Bosa, Greg Russo, you guys got a good front. Ed Oliver. Yeah. If the secondary could play better when you got other people pressuring the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's going to help out. But the biggest thing with the Ravens, you got to make them one-dimensional. You got to stop Henry.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, especially being week one. A lot of teams could be rusty. Now, it could be on either end. It's going to be rusty, but we got to hopefully you guys shut down Henry so we can make them one-dimensional.
Yeah. Great question, Marcus. Thank you so much from watching and listening from Nashville, Tennessee, one of the greatest American cities to go to see a ball game for sure. So we really do appreciate it. And if you've got your Mafia question that you want to ask, make sure you email us at billsmafiacto@gmail.com. And once again, thank you so much, Marcus, for your question.
And that closes out this week's Mafia Mail. Always love hearing from the family. Now, back to the action.
All right, so let's get into the keys to the game here, Tim. Week one, Ravens, Bills, been talked about it for weeks here. I'm going to start here. My key to the game is Bills have got to get out fast. Josh has got to get out fast. They played Arizona and first game last year, and it was just a slow start. Can't have that against Baltimore. So one of the keys is going to be for me here is that Josh Allen's got to get out fast, and they got to get out early, get the crowd into it. So that's my key to the game. What I'm really worried here, not so much, is Derrick Henry running the ball, because you got to choose either you're going to stop Henry or you're going to stop Lamar. So I feel like even from the playoff game last year, the Bills are probably going to focus in on Henry, and I think the front seven is solid enough to do that. What my concern is when McDermott decides to shut Henry down, that's going to leave Lamar open, and that's where you're going to get into the back half of the defense. and we talked about it with Bishop and Taylor Rapp back there, and then we're not sure what Trey White's situations be. So those are definitely going to be my concerns going into this game.
Totally understand that. I'm totally with you, but the one thing I would tell you as far as the Ravens go is I would absolutely stop Derrick Henry and make those receivers beat you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know when we talked to Tad at Purple Perch, he had mentioned that the Ravens were going to win this. It was going to be close. I previewed my pick in episode 2, and I also teased that this could be a loss for the Bills, certainly. And so this one I was going back and forth with here because I definitely can see them losing this game. But I think the Bills are 10-0, and I mentioned this to Tad. The Bills are 10-0 at home. They're on a 10-game winning streak at home. I just think Sunday Night Football, the Bills get it done. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a Josh Allen win. I actually think this is going to be a 27-24 Tyler Bass. Yes, the Bass man kicks it to win it here. But certainly if you're waking up Monday morning and the Bills have lost, not surprised. And that's how I kind of see this game going.
I'm going to tell you right now, the one guy that I would factor in who's going to be the key to your victory, obviously Josh Allen's going to be Josh Allen, but it's James Cook.
Yeah.
If James Cook can get on these linebackers and do what he needs to do, that could be a big difference.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, there's our Bills pick for week 1 and our X factors and what the Bills need to do to bring home that W. All right, it's time for the weekly picks. Tim the Outsider is going to get 4 games. He does not know which games I'm giving him, and he is going to pick the winners. So here we go.
Off the
You
top
ready?
of the dome. Let's do this.
Off the top of the dome. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with AFC East. Jets, Steelers, a Aaron Rodgers Steelers team.
Steelers are going to win this game. I do not think the Jets are that good. And Justin Fields, I'm not a believer. He's had way too many chances, and he hasn't done anything with them. There's no reason that I think this is going to be any different. And
I agree.
And Tomlin knows how to win. Period.
Yeah. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to also pick the Steelers there. I do like the Jets. We are different on that side. And I know next week we'll have a Jets preview. So it'll be interesting to learn a little bit more about the Jets, especially after week 1. I do believe the Jets are a little bit better. I do like the hirings of the coaches there, a different philosophy. But I think the Steelers get it done here. Not so much Aaron Rodgers. I just think, to your point, Mike Tomlin. All right. Chiefs, Chargers. I believe this game is in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken here. So it's a neutral site.
It's on Friday.
Who do you got?
It's on Friday. I'm going to see it's going to be the Chiefs. As much as I'm sick of the Chiefs winning, I don't see the Chargers beating them.
Yeah, I agree with you here too. The Chiefs, although this division is going to be way, way closer than the Chiefs have had in the past, Denver's behind them, and I do believe the Chargers are getting better there. I think travel, just overall, the Chiefs are probably better suited for this game. So I'm also going to go with the Chiefs there. Because we're Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover, we got to keep it in the state. We got Panthers, Jags. This is going to be a good one. Who do you got?
Panthers, Jags. I'm going to go. This is a tough one. I think it's going to be a close game. But I am going to go Carolina. I think Bryce Young is going to take his step forward, and he's going to do well. And they got some young receivers in Carolina, and honestly, I just don't trust the Jags.
This is a tough one for me as well. I really don't know too much about this here, but I'll go against you here because we've been both on the same side here. So I'm gonna go Jags. But it's going to be, it's going to be close. Is it going to be 35-35? No. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. This is like a old school 10-7 game there. So perfect. All right, Pats, Raiders. Who do you got in the final one?
That's a tough one. Again, I think this is going to be close, but I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think Geno Smith is he's a good quarterback that no one's talking about, and he signed with
good
them.
point.
It's gonna keep them solid, and Ashton Genty might be running all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good point. Geno, you're right, is a really, behind the scenes, like no one really talks about him. I actually got the Patriots winning this one. I think with the Vrabel there and Drake May at quarterback, I think they have a little bit of an edge. You got a Stephon Diggs there, which I believe is healthy, ready to roll, so that's going to help them out. So I do have the Pats winning this one as well.
Okay, and we'll find out after the week.
That's right. So that's week 1 picks from Tim the Outsider. So I'm interested to see how many you get right. Another week, another takeover. A big thanks to Tim the Outsider for joining us for the very first time and will be with us for the rest of the season. Also want to thank Tad from Purple Perch, Ravens fan, to give us a preview. So I appreciate you, Tad, and I'm sure we'll see you down the road. Don't forget to send in the questions to billsmafiacto@gmail.com, and you'll have a chance to be featured on the Mafia Mail. And also, if you have any questions for Tim the Outsider, make sure you hit up that Gmail account as well. We'll be back next week with more Bills talk about the game, the Jets week 2, more Mafia energy, and hopefully another W in the books. Until then, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Thanks for tuning in and repping the Mafia with us. Don't forget to subscribe, drop your Mafia mail, and join us next time as we bring the passion, the pride, and the power of the Buffalo Bills straight from the Carolinas. Let's go Buffalo.